How do you structure your thoughts? How do you create the mental models or the frameworks to be able to make sense of new data and new things that come in?
I don't talk too soon, I hope. I think first. So I know in one of my textbooks, that's the beginning of it. Stop and think. So hopefully the person has good training in science. And I'm using science very broadly here in terms of neurology, medicine, mechanics, anatomy, psychology, sociology, neuroscience, etc. Now, I've been lucky in my life. There's a couple of my friends, they'll say, oh, you're a spine slut. You will do anything with anybody, anywhere, anytime, as long as you learn something about the spine. So there it is. It's always been unified. I would enjoy talking to a neurologist or what, but it's always around the framework of the spine. So that's maybe one unifying component to all of this. But anyway, I think about the scientific foundation to guide disciplined thought. And then, is it reasonable? Is it not reasonable? What is the counterpoint? So, a couple of times you've asked me a question today, and I've said, for this kind of person, the answer is more towards this direction, but on another person, it's more towards the polar opposite. So, I try and test myself if I'm starting to reach a conclusion. Do I have an alternate hypothesis that I have been able to test and dismiss? Because that strengthens my hypothesis. And then develop assessment skills, which I think I would say the average clinician had better assessment skills 30 years ago before the technology. Or just go to a veterinarian and watch a veterinarian assess a dog who cannot speak, who's lame. You will probably see the old assessment that I wish so many docs would get back to. Anyway, that's, I hope, the start. Create a scientific foundation, try and test yourself, and then recognizing the person in front of you. What is their learning style? How are you best going to coach? And at that point, you have to be an actor. Are you going to play tough love and tell this person your inability to get past your sloth will guarantee your pain? And then I'll shock them. I hope you enjoy your pain, because that is the pattern that you are maintaining, and I can't help you past that. So enjoy your pain. Versus the next person where I'm very kind. They've had a tough go in life, and but give them a strategy now to pull out of it. Versus someone where I got to take them to fight or flight and fight for their lives. That is the psyche that I have to get them into to create the density of neural drive. So do you see, I'm always play acting, and that's another component of it. But anyway, that's the thought process that I would go through if I'm having a conversation. And I'm pretty boring because there's a lot of blank space when people ask.
But there's a
That's
lot
why we
in
need
there.
beer.
There's a lot in there in terms of seeing the person for what they are, and then appealing to maybe the masculine in them that rises to the challenge and to the prodding and to the berating. Or is that inappropriate? Is it someone who's maybe already feels fragile and needs the nurturing, and appealing to the feminine essence in them? And I
This
think,
is why I can't have a conversation on Facebook or Instagram or any of those social media things, because there's never any context, and you're limited in the amount of speaking and listening that you can do to get the person's perspective. So all it does is end up with this big mess of people arguing, and I can't have anything to do with it.
oh yeah, given the amount that you get misquoted already, imagine in 280 characters making a statement, and then someone comes along, oh, but this, well, yeah, obviously, because I've only, yeah. So I think that the approach that you have there of having a scientific framework to hang concepts on, and I personally, I wish I had this in med school. Med school is often described as a drinking from a fire hose, and it does initially just feel like stuff's being thrown at you without really any kind of structure or context, and only over time, after it's sitting there, it starts to have this emergent form. But instead beginning with the very basics, with none of the details, not learning about G-coupled protein receptors and all, and just saying, okay, what are the very, very basics, without even giving them names, just concept, skeleton, and then hanging things on, means that you can then assess any incoming new claim against that framework, and you have a way to approach it. And I suppose the other tool that you use is steel manning yourself, or taking the opposite argument and saying, how does this fit in with this, or what could be the exceptions to this rule, and then looking at the patient and the assessment. And I think you're right that whenever you see old GPs, or especially vets, because yeah, as you said, the patient can't you can't take a history from the patient, they become very good at examination skills. And I think when you see, and I so bit of a tangent, but people in accident and emergency, or you call it the ED or the ER, and they will often slate the GP. They'll disparage the GP for sending in a patient with query pneumonia, and they're like, "Well, it's obviously not." And you're like, "Yeah, you're saying that it's obviously not," and disparaging the GP after you've seen the X-ray and the bloods, and you've got the ECG, and you've got all these other kind of investigations at your disposal. And I think it can make people lazy to have those investigations, or the kind of the cheat codes, without relying on the basic clinical assessment first. And we were saying that about the MRI before as well, of doing an MRI prematurely and then not knowing what to do with the information.